Major reforms made by Cornwallis Code. To understand the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code, we must recall that Lord Cornwallis, appointed as the Governor-General from 1786 to 1793, introduced a comprehensive set of administrative, judicial, and revenue reforms in 1793. These reforms, collectively known as the Cornwallis Code, fundamentally changed the functioning of British administration in India. Therefore, studying the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code is essential to understanding the roots of the modern Indian administrative and judicial machinery. 1. Judicial reforms. One of the most important major reforms made by Cornwallis Code was the restructuring of the judicial system. Cornwallis aimed to create a fair, predictable, and uniform justice system. Key judicial changes included establishment of district courts, provincial courts of appeal, and Sadar courts. Separation of revenue and judicial functions. The collector was removed from judicial duties. Appointment of trained, salaried judges to ensure impartiality. Introduction of strict procedures for evidence and trials. These judicial developments were among the most influential major reforms made by Cornwallis Code, laying the foundation for India's modern judiciary. Number 2. Revenue reforms. The permanent settlement. Another landmark among the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code was the Permanent Settlement of 1793, introduced in Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha. The key features were fixing land revenue permanently, meaning it would never be increased, recognizing zamindars as landowners, making them responsible for revenue collection, creating a class of loyal landed aristocracy. The permanent settlement is one of the most well-known major reforms made by Cornwallis Code, shaping agrarian relations for generations. Number 3. Administrative reforms. A crucial portion of the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code addressed administrative efficiency and integrity. Important administrative measures. Creation of a professional civil service with fixed salaries, higher posts reserved exclusively for Europeans, reflecting Cornwallis's belief that Indians were unsuitable for high administrative roles. Strict rules to curb corruption, including banning officials from accepting gifts, bribes, and commissions. These steps formed important major reforms made by Cornwallis Code, making administration more structured but also racially discriminatory. 4. Police reforms. One of the important major reforms made by Cornwallis Code was the establishment of a regular police force to maintain law and order. Key changes: abolishing traditional village police systems, introducing a superintendent, daroga, system in each district, placing police under magistrates. This modernized policing system was a significant component of the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code. 5. Civil Service Code of Conduct. Among the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code was the introduction of a strict code of conduct for civil servants. Provisions included no acceptance of presents, bribes, or private trade profits, establishing professional integrity as a cornerstone of service, providing competitive salaries to discourage corruption. These ethical guidelines were transformative and a major element of the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code. 6. Criminal justice reform. In discussing the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code, reform of the criminal justice system is vital. Key steps: softening earlier harsh punishments, establishing courts for criminal appeals, ensuring that Muslim criminal law continued but with modifications for fairness. These criminal justice adjustments were among the practical major reforms made by Cornwallis Code that affected everyday governance. 7. Strengthening British control. An indirect but major feature of the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code was the consolidation of British power. Steps included centralization of authority in British hands, exclusion of Indians from high posts in administration and judiciary, making British officials accountable only to the East India Company, not local authorities. Thus, strengthening imperial control forms another significant part of the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code. In summary, the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code can be grouped into judicial reforms, modern courts, separation of powers, revenue reforms, permanent settlement, administrative reforms, structured civil service, anti-corruption measures, police reforms, modern police organization, service ethics, strict rules for officials, criminal justice reforms, more humane and systematic procedures. Together, the major reforms made by Cornwallis Code played a foundational role in shaping the modern Indian administrative, judicial, and law enforcement systems.